All right, we're back. We're back. We're back. So, a lot has been made about the acquisition that we recently made in the secondary, and some people are throwing that E word out there, which I mean they're gonna do that. I don't. At this point, I believe they're trolling us because we're trolling them. They're trolling us because I mean there's no way. There's no way. But again, there may be some that actually feel that way, right? But anyway, so I said, you know what? I wanted to talk about it last night on the show, but we had some other conversation topics that were brought up, so we really didn't get to go over it the way that I wanted to go over it. So I said, you know what? I really wasn't fully prepared to kind of go into detail anyway, so I took the liberty today of kind of going a little bit more in detail. And again, I'm gonna be the first to say I did not spend time watching highlight tapes. I'm not gonna watch your highlight tape because again, your highlight tape is just it. It's highlights. You can literally make a highlight tape of literally any Division I athlete because there's no way they can go through. If you play major snaps, there's no way that any player that's playing at the D1 level, P5, you can literally find at least 4 minutes of footage throughout an entire season where that guy could really look like something special. You know what I mean? Like I feel that way about any P5 athlete, any one of them, regardless of position, except for maybe the long snapper, because obviously you're just snapping the ball. But with that being said, so I said, you know what? See, PFF is back popping because it fits narratives. So I said, you know what? Let me go to PFF and look at some stuff because one of the things that I notice is their grading. Like for example, right? I'm gonna go right here with like Zachariah Porser. I'm gonna start with him for instance, right? So he had a coverage grade on the season of 77.9, which is good, especially for the safety position, right? However, when you delve a little bit deeper into this, what you realize is he only had 4 games in which they graded him over 70, and it was 9 games in which they graded him below 70. So I'm trying to figure out how do they compute 77.9. Now, he did have a game in which he had a 90 coverage grade, and that's what I'm talking about. Like one game that they grade you can literally carry the rest of the grades, because if you look at this and it say you only have 4 games over 70 and you got 9 below, you shouldn't be at 77.9. If anything, you should maybe be at 71, maybe even 69 something, but I don't know, right? But anyway, so what I took the liberty of doing is looking at the 5 guys that we picked up, looked at some of the guys that are returning, looked at some of the guys that left, you know, to kind of see did we get exponentially better? Did we just get a little better? Or, you know, just kind of still need a guy or two? Or is it a situation where it's like it's an even rinse? I'll go ahead and say it's not an even rinse, right? So we have to figure out if it's just a little bit better or is it exponentially better, right? So again, like I said, I'm going to start with Zachariah Porser, who PFF grade on the season was 77.6. Now, like I said, this is when I'm getting into the grading, right? He had 5 games where they graded him over 70. He had 8 below 70. Now, again, we got to take in the level of competition because he is coming up from the G5 level. So it's going to be interesting to kind of see. And again, this was just his first year, this past year, of actually having extensive playing time. So, and one thing I will say about each one of these guys, with the exception of Brantley that we brought in, each one of these guys I can really pretty much look at and say, y'all still got some development to do. Because y'all, for the most part, y'all are redshirt freshmen, so y'all still got some development to do. So I'm not going to be overly critical over some of the way that they were graded because, again, they're still young guys. You know what I mean? But, again, we're trying to see if this is exponentially better or did we just get a little bit better, right? So, getting to Zachariah Porter. Now, play the safety position. Now, one of the biggest issues we had last year was tackling, and you're going to see that when I get to some of our guys in their grades. Poised they graded him at 61.1 tackling. He had 5 games over 70. He had 8 games below 70, and he had 5 games below 50. Now, even like I said, I know what I just said about you being, this is your first year of extensive playing time, but 5 games below 50, it's going to be a little interesting. That's going to be something that you have to clean up because, again, that was one of the bigger issues that we had aside from blowing coverages and things like that, right? So, again, I went over his coverage grade, which I told you 77.9, 4 games over 70, but he had 9 below. So, in reality, from this, I don't really need to see you in too many coverage situations. Again, like I said, this is you played at a lower level as well. You know what I mean? You played at a lower level. So it's going to be interesting to kind of see, kind of what goes on here. And if he's able to, actually get a starting job here, you know what I mean? But like I said, he's bringing another body into the room. You know what I mean? A guy that, because like I said, you have to take in a level of competition. So it's like, I'm not analytical enough to take these numbers and input them into like, okay, what would these numbers spit out if you played against a P5 schedule the entire season? But just by looking at this, I wouldn't say that if you, again, based on this, if you played a P5 schedule or P4 now throughout the entire season, I don't think you're very much better than what we already have. As a matter of fact, it'd probably be a rinse. That's just me. All right, so I know some people may, feel however they want to feel, but it is what it is. Let me know what y'all think in the comment section. Anyway, Ethan O'Connor. His grades, pretty good. Someone actually asked me last night who were the guys that I actually liked that we picked up, and I told him, I said, I like that O'Connor, I like Brantley. But I really do like O'Connor because his numbers, played at the P5 level, played at Washington State. We can get into this conference supremacy thing, but the teams that they played is pretty much, to me, I think is an even wash with, what he's going to see in the ACC. But anyway, get into his numbers, right? Overall PFF grade, 78.3, 8 games over 70, right? 8 games over 70, 3 below 60, right? Again, this is his first year of extensive playing time, right? Tackle grade, 56, right? But this is what I'm saying. This is how PFF gets crazy, right? He has 70 games in which they graded him 70 or better tackling. He only had 5 games in which he was below 60, but they gave him an overall PFF grade of tackling 56. So again, like I say, I don't know, right? Now, this is the big one right here. Coverage, which is what we had issues at. Coverage, 80.6. 7 games over 70, 3 below 60. Again, I don't know how this gets to 80. I don't know how it gets to 80. But again, like I say, I'm not analytical enough to do this, but probably more so. This is probably because, like I said, they'll have one game where they'll score like 90 or something, and like it pulls so much stuff up throughout the rest of the season. But again, he only had 3 games below 60, right? And again, this is his first year of extensive playing time. So again, I think he has a lot of upside. I'll say that just based on these particular numbers and stuff like that, right? So let's get to Carnley, right? And I know the prize was to get his teammate, who I believe ended up committing to Oregon, right? This is bad. I'm just gonna say it. This is bad. PFF grade 53.5. He only had 3 games in which he scored over they graded him over 60. This is bad. Tackling 59.8. He had 5 games over 70, which, okay, that's cool. He had 4 games below 60, and then three out of those 4 were below 50. But he's big though. I think he's like 6'2", 2. So it's like, yo, bro, like, so I I can already say, like, yeah, you fit in. You pretty much fit into what we were hoping, hoping not to still be on the roster. But, I mean, it is what it is, right? Coverage grade, 59.5. He only had 2 games over 70, right? 4 below 60, and the others were below 50. No, the others were below 20. Not 20. 50, yeah. Others are below 50. So it's like we don't need you in any man-to-man situations whatsoever. Like, I mean, you can't tackle, again, based on these grades. You can't cover, and these grades say that you're really not a good player. You like, you're Jaden Harris. You're Jaden Harris. So hopefully, he may not be. I don't know, man. He may get better, but as it stands right now, I have to take it on face value. This is not a very good pickup. I have to say that, right? So anyway, let's get to Brantley. Now, again, when we got Brantley, I didn't know. I actually went back and I looked and I said, man, this young man has suffered 4 season-ending injuries. And there was a Miami media member that he put something out and I commented, and he brought up a false equivalency. He brought up Jalen Phillips' concussions. And I'm like, this is not even comparable. You can't compare a player that got some concussions to a person that has had 4 season-ending injuries. Like, because if my memory serves me correctly, I remember when Will Mallory was being recruited, and there were some individuals that were talking about he had dealt with some concussion issues. Now, again, I'm not going to pretend to be a neurosurgeon or a neurological person, but I do know that there are some things that players can do to minimize their risk of concussions, right? Now, obviously, some people, they've had enough so severe to the point that, it's nothing that you can do. But there are instances in which they can minimize and cut down on it. And I don't think Jalen Phillips has been diagnosed with a concussion, after he came back and suited up for suited up for the Hurricanes and then also for the Dolphins. Now, again, I don't follow the Dolphins, so maybe a Dolphin fan can say, well, yeah, you had another one or another 2. But that's not comparable. That's not comparable. And one of the things that kind of irked me was the highlights that they showed. They were showing highlights from his first 2 years. And I'm like, you can't, that's disingenuous. We're not getting that same type of player. It's almost like when Al Golden was here and Shayon Green was here. Now, Shayon Green, I believe, he's a pretty highly thought of recruit, coming in. But he had those knee injuries, and it's like he wasn't even half the player that he was. Now, again, I don't know what Brantley's situation is, but 4 season-ending injuries, this is your 5th year. So realistically, we do have to expect that there will be something missing, right? And I watched a couple of Michigan State games this year, and I know he had the big game against Prairie View where he ran back the interception, the pick 6. So that was a good play. Now, would that have been a pick 6 against a P5 team based on what I saw? I don't think so. But he does show to have good ball skills. So, again, we'll kind of see where he falls. But anyway, getting to the grades. 78.1 overall PFF. 4 games over 70 at 5 below 70. And again, like I said, he had the game against Prairie View, they graded him out at 92.2 that game. So, again, this goes to show you how that 190 grade can pull things up. But again, based on this, analytic mind, maybe you're 73, 74 or something like that. You're not 80 overall, close to it. I'm not seeing it. Tackling, 49.5. Again, this is an issue that we had. He had 4 games over 70 in tackling. He had 5 below 60. 5 below 60. So again, when we look at this from the other 3 guys, what we see right now is there isn't a dominant tackler right now. It's not a dominant tackler right now. based on this because, again, like I said, going back to Porser, at a lower level, he had 5 below 50. O'Connor had 5 below 60, which, based on this, he seems to be the best tackler of this. And obviously, currently, you know, you're Jaden Harris. So, but we'll see. You know what I'm saying? We'll see, right? Coverage grade, he had 76, right? Again, now going back to what I said, he had the big game against Prairie View, right? Now listen to this. He had 3 games over 70. The game 92.2 against Prairie View. He had 6 below 70. So again, 3 games over 70, and one of those games was a 92.2. 6 other games were below 70. He only played 9 games on the season because, again, he had a season-ending injury last year as well. So, I mean, roll of the dice here, baby. Now, what seems to be maybe the prize, Xavier Lucas, right? Again, true freshman. So, again, I'm not going to be as harsh or be as critical of his grades because, again, like I said, all these guys are pretty much, with the exception of Brantley, all these guys are pretty much in the development stages of their career. You know what I mean? So, but these are Xavier Lucas numbers, right? PFF grade 77.5. He had 4 games over 70. He had 6 below 70. Now, the interesting thing about his overall PFF grade is the first game of the season, he only played 7 snaps, but they graded him at 92.1 on 7 snaps. So, again, that just goes to show you how a 90 grade can really, really do a lot of favors for you. It really can, right? Tackling, 76.8. He had 7 games over 70. So, he's already in plus territory, right? 3 below 70. And a couple of those, and one, I believe 2 of those games in which he was below 70, it was less. He logged less than 20 snaps that game, which I think 20 snaps is the bare minimum that they'll start giving you a grade at. So, right before the Nebraska game, it was like 3 games in which he played like single-digit snaps. So, again, so all in all, I mean, these are good. You know what I mean? These are really good. I mean, based on this, he seems at this point in time, you know, is really nothing that you can really punch holes in terms of his numbers, because they seem to be a little bit more consistent over the duration of the season based on what it was I saw. Coverage grade, 75.2. He had 3 games over 70, which, again, going back to that first game, they gave him 91.1 coverage grade. He had 7 games below 70. But again, like I said, I'm not going to be overly harsh because he is a true freshman. He was a true freshman. And he only started 1 game. So to me, these are good numbers for a guy that was in a backup role. You know what I mean? But I feel like obviously here he'll probably be entrusted to take one of these starting positions. I mean, he has to. It was so much hoopla about it. So I would almost be disappointed if he didn't get a starting position. And I know we, kind of go back and forth about competition, but it should be no competition. So whether it's a starting safety spot or a starting corner spot, Xavier Lucas, you got it. The other, and like I say, and Ethan, I like him as well. You know what I mean? But again, like I said, we just have to kind of see, man, where the chips fall. So again, those are the guys that we picked up. Now, based on those numbers, I don't see elite. Right? But now we're going to get to the Miami guys, and then that'll give the final grade of, did we get exponentially better? Or did we just, we better. We're a little bit better. Not too much, but we're a little bit better. Now, Mish Powell. Transfer player from the University of Washington, right? PFF gave him a 78.1 overall grade on the season. 4 games over 70, 9 games below 70. That does not equal 78.1. It don't equal 78.1. But again, that's what they gave him. But again, like I said, based on the other 5, we can kind of see how this grading stuff is like all over the place. You know what I mean? So, tackle grade 54.3. Now, this is where it gets interesting, right? Mish Powell actually had 8 games in which he was over 70. But he had 5 below 70. And I don't feel like those 5 below 70 should have him at 54.3. But I did think he had a game or two maybe where he was in the 30s or 40s or something like that. But still, it still seemed like it should be in the 60s or something. But again, I'm not doing the grade, right? Coverage grade, 81.1. 5 games over 70, 8 games below 70. So to me, it seemed like the tackle and coverage grade should be swapped. That's just me, though. But based on the overall PFF grade, Mish Powell, from an overall grade perspective, from an overall PFF perspective, is better than all 5 of the guys that we got. Tackle grade, he's below Lucas and Poisser, and even Carley, all right? Coverage grade, best coverage grade. So, I mean, when you add it up, technically, according to this, Brantley and O'Connor are better than Mish Powell, according to this. And it's just slightly better. Again, this is PFF grades, right? Now moving on to one of my favorite players. He's still one of my favorite players. I hope he's able to, regain some confidence that he probably lost this particular season as he goes to the University of Georgia, which is Jaden Harris. Now, it hurts my heart to read these numbers, but hey, I got to do it. Overall PFF grade, 57.1. Awful. He only had 2 games over 70, so that lets you know he had 11 games below 70. Tackle grade, 41.9. 4 games over 70, 9 below 70, and he had 5 below 30. Oh my God, ooh boy. Coverage. I don't know if this is a 55. It may be 35, but I think it's 55.9. I got physician handwriting, so either way, it's below 60. He had 2 games over 70, but he had 11 below 70. So, all in all, I mean, he's better than Carley. And I said Carley was Jaden Harris, but Jaden Harris is better than Carley from an overall perspective. But from a tackling, Carley's better. From a coverage, Carley's better. But I mean, that's a wash to me. It is. So let's go back over here to Daryl Porter. And it was interesting when I got the Daryl Porter name because I said, man, how did he regress so badly? But then when I looked at 2023, I'm like, he really didn't regress. He just was kind of talked about a little bit better than he actually was. But anyway, we'll get to this, right? So his PFF grade this year, 57.8. 3 games over 70, 10 below. Tackle grade, 60.2. Only had 5 games over 70, 6 below. And then he had 5 games below 50. That's terrible. That's bad. Coverage grade, 53.8, 53.5. He only had 3 games over 70 and 9 below 60. Not 9 below 70, but 9 below 60. And again, for the most part, a lot of people say he was, he started off in the slot, which wasn't a comfortable position. But then when they kicked him back outside, I mean, it wasn't too much better. Now, like I said, we're back to 2023. 2023 said he had an overall PFF grade of 80.6, which is really good. But when you dig into it, he only had 4 games in which they graded him over 70, and he had 6 games in which they graded him below. He had only 4 games where they graded him over 70, and he had 6 where they graded him below 70. Right? Tackle grade 82.5. He had 8 games in which he was over 70, that's good. He had 2 in which he was below. So that number right there, to me, that's a legitimate number. Coverage, 80.2. 4 games in which he was over 70, 6 games in which he was below 70. Again, I do not know how that equals 80.2. I don't. But all in all, based on Daryl Porter's numbers this year, we got some upgrades over Daryl Porter Jr. even from, well, yeah, last year would have been a push. But this year, obviously, upgrade over Daryl Porter. De'Anthony Hill, who Wisconsin, they took him. They got him. They pulled a fast one. PFF grade 57.6. 2 games over 70, 9 games in which he's below 70. It's not good. Now this is where it gets interesting for De'Anthony Hill. This is something that we may actually miss. And I know it's not much we're gonna miss about De'Anthony Hill, but I mean, according to PFF, he had a tackle grade of 75.3. 7 games in which he was over 70. He only had 3 games in which he was below 70. So I think those numbers I think that grade is pretty legitimate to me. But coverage, 56.8. He only had 2 games in which they graded him over 70, and he had 9 games in which they graded him below 70. So it's pretty rough. Jadavius Richard, right? Still remember when individual was talking about, man, he's such a big get, man. He was going to be a starter at Vanderbilt. Think about all this. And man, these people. These people. Anyway, 62.4 PFF grade. He only had 1 game in which he was over 70. He had 8 in which he was below 70, where they graded him below 70. Tackling, 78.2. 4 games in which he was over 70, 5 below 70, and out of those 5 games, 3 games he didn't log enough snaps for them to give him a grade, right? So there's that. Coverage, 59.1. He only had 1 game over 70, and then 8 games were below. So that we upgraded over that. How much? I don't think it's exponentially better, but yeah, we got better. Now, let's get to the lone bright spot of the secondary. O.J. Frederick, 77 overall PFF grade. But again, this is where it gets interesting, right? He only had 4 games in which they graded him over 70, and he had 9 games in which they graded him below 70. This is like Daryl Porter like grading here. So I'm almost a little frightened about what he would look like next year. I'm a little frightened because of just looking at what Daryl Porter Jr. was, in which, you know, some people put him to the moon in terms of how good he was, when in reality he wasn't very much better last year than he was this year. So, but again, like I say, all you need is really 1 good game, like really 1 great game, and that'll carry you through the rest of the season. Tackle grade, 81.8. He had 9 games in which he was above 70, 4 games below 70. So that number maybe could be 77, 78 or something like that, but that's a good number, especially from a secondary with some of the tackling grades that I'm seeing up here. Hey, you earned it. Coverage grade. Again, 75.7. He had 4 games over 70 and 9 games in which he was below 70. Now, again, most will look at it, and, you know, obviously we look at the Syracuse game, but again, the way PFF graded this, like, you know, it wasn't just the Syracuse game in which, you know, he graded below what they felt like should have been over 70. But again, like I said, he's a true freshman, so like I said, similar to Xavier Lucas, I'm not going to get too bent out of shape about it. Again, you're a freshman. You got time to grow and you know, and make something happen. But again, these numbers, they could do some adjustments could be made, right? Zachariah Patterson, big-time safety commit that we got. I believe he played just a little bit over 100 snaps this year. I think it was like 122 snaps. But these are his PFF grades. 66.2 overall. He had 3 games over 70, 10 games below. Tackle grade, 63. He had 7 games over 70, 4 below. Coverage grade, 68.8. He had 3 games over 70 and 10 games were below 70. Now, again, he's a true freshman, right? But at the same token, he was a highly regarded true freshman. Much more highly regarded than O.J. Frederick was. Even though I believe even when O.J. Frederick was being recruited, a lot of people said he's not being evaluated properly. Like, he's better than what the grade says he is, right? So if I have to, if we're gonna go with that, and he showed that, yeah, y'all were right to an extent, then I can't at the same time say, well, Zaquan was a freshman. Like, he was a top 100 player, top 150 or something like that. So I would like for the production to be a little bit better. But again, like I said, he has time to get better. You know what I mean? But these grades are not just wow. You know what I'm saying? These grades don't scream like you should be a shoe-in to be a starter next year. You know what I mean? But it is what it is. And last but not least, Markeith Williams, who's a fan favorite. PFF grade 67. 1 game over 70, 8 below. Tackle grade 60.4, 4 over 70, 5 below. Coverage grade 66.9, 2 over 70, 7 below. So I think that number could be lower. So those are the numbers for the incoming guys and some of the outgoing guys and some of the guys that are going to be here next year. That are still going to be on the roster next year. So did we get exponentially better with the additions? I don't think so. Did we get better though? I think so. But it's not exponentially better. You know what I'm saying? It's not exponentially better. You know what I mean? And then you take into consideration, like, you take a Porser, you take a Ethan O'Connor, you take a Carley, right? These are not even, like, how people talked about, like, well, Al Golden, Manny, they recruited guys who shouldn't be on Miami's roster. Like, we saw what they were in high school. I mean, the same thing could be said about Poised, O'Connor, and Carley. Like, these are not guys that the University of Miami would have recruited out of high school. Now, again, you got the transfer portal. They played, so now they got a new set of rankings that make them look better. But again, like I say, for Porser, these are not just jump off the page numbers. And then on top of that, you coming from a lower level on top of that, right? So I'm in wait and see mode with him. It might work out, it might not, but I don't think he's exponentially better. I don't. Ethan O'Connor, like I said, I like what I'm seeing from him. Like I said, the tackle grade, to me, that could be better, but I think what they had him like 6'1", something like 170, so I believe he's going to have to bulk up some too, you know what I mean? But again, this was just his first year playing. He's a redshirt freshman. Coverage grade, like I said, was solid, you know what I mean? 80.6, but again, like I said, I don't think it should be that high. I don't think he's exponentially better, but I do think he's better, right? I think he's better than the number 2 guy that we had. And based on these grades, he was better than our number 1 guy. Yeah, his numbers, with the exception of tackling, he graded better than O.J. Frederick, right? And he's just a year older, you know what I mean? So I think we got better. He's better than our starter that we had, and he's better than the guy that we brought, that we had at our number 2 corner spot last year, which is he's better than De'Anni Hill, and he's better than Ricard. He's better than Daryl Porter. So yeah, he's an upgrade, but not exponentially better, right? Carley, no upgrade whatsoever. None whatsoever, right? Brantley, again, he's an upgrade to an extent, but like I said, his numbers are interesting because, like I said, he has 5 games in which he's below 70. They gave him a 78.1. I told you about the preview game in which he graded him like 92. So in reality, you take that game away, he's probably maybe 70, 73, 74, something like that. Tackle grade, not that good. Coverage grade, like I said, being pulled up by the preview game. He had 6 games in which he was below 70. And again, I could maybe say that maybe he's dealing with some, obviously some lingering effects from some previous injuries that he had. So I can't say he's exponentially better. Like I said, I can't say he's exponentially better. He played well against a team that he's supposed to play well against. I will say that, but I don't think he's exponentially better. I think he's just as good as what, pretty much what we may have already had. There's that. And Xavier Lucas, again, like I said, he's a true freshman. So, again, the book is still being written on him. But if we look at these grades from a true freshman, he played better. And obviously they put him at corner. But he played better than Frederick Patterson did, right? And individual guy Zaquan penciled in as a starter. So if he's, like I said, if he's penciled in as a starter, then Xavier Lucas, whether they put him at safety or they put him at corner, you got to be on the field because you graded out better. You graded out just as good as our best defensive back, which is O.J. Frederick. No, Mish Powell. Didn't grade out as good as Mish Powell, like I said. Some of these grades, again, like I say, it's interesting, you know what I mean? Like I said, people are going to have narratives and stuff like that, but like I said, I went and got the numbers. You can take with the numbers what you will, you know what I mean? You can like the numbers, you can dislike the numbers. Like I said, I know there's some people who are anti-PFF, and then there's some people that are pro-PFF, only when it fits a particular narrative, right? But again, like I said, PFF is one of the things that people use to justify something, right? So like I said, I just want to go in and look a little bit deeper, dig a little bit deeper to actually see, did we get exponentially better in the secondary room? And like I said, I can't say we did. I can't say that we got exponentially better. What I can really say is we have some guys who weren't here last year, so by default they're better. Even though, like I say, I do like O'Connor a lot, and I do think that Lucas should get a starting spot. But question marks on Brantley. Carley, I don't know. And like I said, Porser, you would like to see better grades. But again, like I said, this was just his second year starting. But this was just his first year playing, second year in college. But still, you would like to see better grades than this from a guy. And obviously, I know you had a lot of stats, right? You know what I'm saying? So he may pass the eye test. But again, still, I would like to see better grades than a guy that, kind of dominates on that level. But like I said, in conclusion, man, I don't think we got exponentially better. I think some of these guys, you're better by default. Obviously, Carley is not one of those guys. Like I said, Brantley, I don't know. I don't know if he's going to be available for the spring, so it's going to be interesting. But I do think that if there's a way, if they can find another guy or two to come in here, they should do it. Whether it's another safety, another corner, maybe even two more safeties. You know what I mean? They need to do it. And, wouldn't be opposed to bringing in a linebacker. But I'm going to say this in conclusion, though, right? I looked at it and I said, man, our whole secondary, with the exception of O.J. Frederick, may actually be transfers. And it's like, that was a running joke for Florida State. But now when we're doing it, it's like, But I love it, though, man. I love when people make these grandiose statements like, well, we'll never do that. And then when we start doing it, well, it's everyone's. No. That ain't what y'all said. Y'all said we were going to do it this way. We were only going to get guys to fill holes. These guys are, this is far more than filling holes. These are guys with more years to play. Like, these are basically recruits at the end of the day, right? With that being said, man, like, share, subscribe, comment. Please comment. You know what I'm saying? Please comment, because I would love to see what some people are thinking about this. You know what I mean? Like I said, I'm not watching no highlight tape. I don't care. I saw the Xavier Lucas interception on the sideline. I'm like, all right, cool. That's nice. That's nice. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's about all I can say about it. But anyway, man, like I said, girl, like, share, subscribe, comment. As always, it's all about you. Peace.